Smiling Sam Alvey. We got him back here in the program. Nate Marquardt's coming up for him. UFC on Fox 23. Got to ask Sam, did you watch UFC 207?
I sure did.
Man, what a great card, right?
Really was. I loved every fight.
It's a little weird though that now that Joe Silva's gone, but the card's already set. For the next 5 or 6. Do you think are you going to miss Joe Silva, him being gone now? I know, of course, that Sean Shelby's taken over the reins, and then Mick Maynard stepped in at the lower rank. But is it going to affect you that much with Joe being gone?
You know what? I've got a pretty good repertoire with most everyone at the UFC. Mick Maynard, I've talked to him already once or twice, and he seems like he's very much up for the job. Of course, I'm going to miss Joe. I've been working with him for a couple of years now, but I think he turned the reins over to a good guy.
Yeah, it was time for him to get out. It was a nice time for him to retire. I think he's made his mark for sure in the sport. Put together some of the best fights around.
I just think he must have one of the most frustrating jobs in all of MMA. Working with fighters is hard, and every fighter wants something more from you. It would be. I don't know if I could do what he did for so many years.
I know I couldn't. There's no way. It's too much of an impossibility. He's got too much stuff going on and too many things he's got to do on top of watching all the tape, watching all the fights, not just the UFC fights, but every other fight. When a guy gets brought into the organization, if they're thinking about bringing them into the organization, it's way too much. So I got to ask on this one. Was it a phone call? Hey Sam, we want you to fight Nate, or did you call them and say, hey, look, I want to fight somebody as quickly as possible, and Nate was the next one in line? Like how'd this fight come together?
You know what? After every fight, I talk to whoever's backstage. I say, listen, I'm not injured. I'm good. As soon as you got someone for me, and then we'll give it a couple days. And then Britt always liked giving Joe Silva and whoever else a couple days after a fight before she started bothering my gut. But she sent him another message saying, hey Sam, I'd love a fight in December if you could get one. But we didn't expect one. But then it was actually Mick Maynard called me, said, hey, we got one for you in the end of January if you'd like it. And I said, sure. Who is it? And they said, Nate Marquardt. I said, oh, he's my old coach from The Ultimate Fighter. I would love it.
So, obviously, you just said you would love this fight, but now you've had time to think about it, analyze it, look at it. How big is this fight for you?
This really is the biggest fight of my career. It is. He's fought for the title before. He has his own reputable gym. He trains at other reputable gyms. You see him in the corner of countless other MMA fighters. He's one of the few fighters that are more experienced than I am. He has more fights than me, more wins, and I think he's got more losses too by 1 or 2. But hopefully I won't catch him on that.
He's 35-16, and you're 29-8. So it's He's definitely been around the game for a really long time. Had his ups and had his downs, had his problems with testing and all that, and seems to have everything under control. But he's not, as of late, he's kind of been 500. In his last 4 fights, he's 500, and he's 2-3 in his last 5. So, how do you think? Do you think Nate's now past his prime and he's starting to come off the hill a little bit?
Probably, but to be fair, he's been fighting for so long. His prime lasted longer than most, and if you look at he's 3-5 or 2 of 5 of his last 5, 2-3 in his last 5. Look at who he's fought. I mean, he fought some of the best in the industry even now, and you're going to lose some of those big fights, but he's won a couple of those big fights too, even recently.
Yeah, he's fought Brad Tavares, Kevin Gastelum, CB Dalloway, Thiago Santos, and Taylor McCrory in his last 5 fights. So it's not like he's sitting on the bench and grabbing tomato cans and losing. He's got some great fights out there. So
he's grabbing studs.
You're always motivated. Like, you love fighting. You really enjoy the process of training camp. You really enjoy the diet. You're one of the few fighters that actually enjoys the process of getting ready to go in there and fight, and then misses it 2 days after the fight's over and really wants to get back into training camp. But how much more motivation is it for you when you're like, oh, this is my old coach from The Ultimate Fighter. This is a guy that's got a huge name. He's got a huge record. Like, how much more motivation does this fight give you over the rest?
I didn't think it would give me as much as it did, but I go to sleep and I'm thinking about this fight. I wake up and it's kind of the first thing I'm thinking about. It's like I said, it is the biggest fight I've ever had. Even in my mind, it is bigger than my other fights. So I'm going out of my way. I'm spending a little more money on my training camp than I normally do. I'm taking advantage of absolutely everything I can, getting ready for this one. And even my wife is on board completely. We started sleeping in separate rooms. Just so my kids, because we all sleep in the same room. They have their own bed. But anyways, we're sleeping in different rooms so I can sleep a little better without the kids possibly waking up in the middle of the night. I'm just doing absolutely everything. I'm doing things I've never done before to try and get me more rest, more ready, more everything.
What are you doing that's different? You said you're spending more money and you're doing a couple of things differently. What are you doing different this camp?
I'm still working with the same conditioning team I always have, strength and conditioning, but we started it. I have 8 weeks instead of 4 weeks this time, so that's a little different. But I'm doing more with them. I'm traveling a little more for a few different training partners. I'm bringing more training partners in. I bought an elevation tent. Which is those friggin' things are expensive. But I've been sleeping in an elevation tent for the last 6 weeks or however long it's been. So I've really been trying to do everything right this time. I'm going to bring in George Lockhart. He's going to do my weight cut with me the week of. I'm going to fly him in. I'm going to go out to Colorado a week earlier than the fight and do my last week of training out there. So
that's my next question, because it's doing the elevation tent is great, but it really is not going to mimic the total weight of being up there all the time and trying to get it together. You're fighting in Denver, Colorado. It's a mile-high city. It's called that. It's a mile above sea level. It is going to affect cardio. So you're going up there a week before, longer than normal. So you're not going up there for the full 5 days. You're going up there for almost 2 weeks.
Yeah, and we really did our research on the elevation tent and there's. My wife could tell you better than I could, but there's like a science behind it where it's actually you will adapt faster and more fully if you sleep in elevation and train at sea level. Said it does. Like I said, I sound dumb trying to explain it myself, but she could tell you everything. We researched every part of it, or at least she did, and I just went along.
You got to let us know how you feel after like the fourth day of being up there, because usually the first 3 days you get that weird sickness. It's kind of like altitude sickness. You feel kind of tired, you're kind of lethargic, but you kind of start to adapt come the fourth day. And like you said, you're going to be up there for almost 2 weeks before the fight, so it'll be a good measuring stick. But you got to let us know how you're feeling, come weight cut time and all that, because trying to cut weight even in that kind of atmosphere makes things harder. You don't react. Your body doesn't react the same way if you're not used to the elevation. It is a lot more difficult.
Yeah, and my last fight was actually 1,000 feet higher than Denver, down in Mexico City, and it was, my lungs felt okay during the fight, but my body started getting tired. Like in the fight, I could feel I didn't have as much snap. I didn't have as much power on the end of everything. And so that was the reason I wanted to go up a little early, is I wanted that extra week of really just training and living in that elevation.
Now, your wife travels with you, and she obviously corners you every single fight. This one, it's an extra week away from the kids. Is she going to come the entire time that you're up there, or is it going to be a stagger?
She's going to come towards the end of it, towards the end of that. So I'm going to get up there on the 16th. She's going to come on like the 22nd, I think. So she'll come fight week, and she'll bring the kids and everything. I have some family in Colorado, so I'll be staying with them. And during the week of the fight, I think Lockhart will be up there. And
so, like you were saying before we got cut off, that your wife's going to come up there on the 22nd. You'll be up there on the 16th, and then she's going to bring the kids up there. Now, you said you have family that you're staying with while you're up there in Colorado. Cousins? How close?
Yeah. My aunt and my cousin, they live up there. So I'll have a little bit of an Alvey section even coming out to the fight.
Now, are you close to them all the time, or have you become closer with them since you started getting more notoriety in the UFC?
With my cousins? No, I mean they've always been in Colorado while I was in Wisconsin, but no, we've always been tight. My cousin Sydney and my aunt Jackie. No, we'd see them every Christmas and New Year's and Thanksgiving when we could. So we very very tight with them.
No, it's just amazing that how much closer the external family becomes to the fighter once the fighter starts getting seen on TV. And that's why I was asking if it was one of those deals where, like, oh yeah, come on in because you're coming up. We know you're fighting here. Suppose you come stay with us for a week. It wasn't like no. I see every year I'm coming up. Sorry, it's a little bit late for New Year's, but I'm going to come up with, end of January, so the end of December.
No, it was. I heard I was going out there, so I called and told, hey, if you want tickets, let me know. I can get you tickets real quick. And I said, oh, by the way, can I stay at your house for a week?
That's the exchange. You want tickets? I got to stay at your house. That's kind of how it works. There it is. That's fine. That's a good exchange. That's a good rate.
Yeah, they're happy with it.
So you say you've been driving further for other training partners and stuff, too. Where have you been driving, and to what training partners are you trying to get a hold of?
Just moving around. Sean Strickland, he's my main training partner. I train with him and Keith Berry more than anyone else, and then Hendo's in all the time too. So I train with them more than anyone else. But Sean likes to travel, so he goes around. We've been down to the arena, and I haven't been to Alliance yet, but I meant to get down there. And I want to get out to Sean goes all the time, often enough. I want to get down to Bisbing's camp, and I would love to get some rounds in there, some working with Mr. Bisbing.
Well, for you, that's like an hour and 15-minute drive, right, to get down to Orange County?
Yeah, something like, depending on traffic, yeah, something like that. We go down there. It's the middle of the day. I'm free. I work in the mornings and I work at night, so the middle of the day I'm free to do whatever.
So then it's but it ends up being a 4-hour trek. It's an hour and some change you get down there, a 2-hour practice, and an hour and some change you get back. So it's not middle of the day. It all of a sudden becomes like half a day of you down there.
Yeah, but you know what? It's my career. Everything else I do because I like doing it. I do it for the money, and I just happen to like doing it too.
It's interesting how most fighters are trying to get to one spot where they can do everything in one place and not have to travel anywhere, not do any kind of traveling at all. And you're actually looking to spend 4 hours on the road. You're like, I'm gonna drive an hour and work out for 2 hours and drive back an hour, and that's gonna be fun.
For the most part, I do everything at one place. My strength and conditioning is about a mile down the road. My gym is here. I do almost everything at one place. Every now and then I get somewhere else.
Oh, okay.
Jesse Taylor works down at the arena most of the time, so I get to go down and work with him every now and then. And he's got a couple of good trainers. I think Chris Lieben's down there right now. And then, like I said, I can go to the Orange County every night. It's been a minute since I've been there, but I'm trying to get back. I'm trying to bum a ride with Sean.
That's smart. It's good, and you're right. It is your career, and this is what you have to do. And these other sacrifices you've got to do to be able to get yourself moved up the rankings. So let's just say you knock out Nate. It's a great fight. You catch him, you put him down, and then what? What happens? What's this fight going to do for your career after a big victory?
Well, as of now, I believe I'm the main event on the Fox Sports 1 card, so I'm the undercard. I believe I am. Nothing's set in stone yet, and that's a big thing. I mean, people are going to be able to watch my fight before they watch everything else, which I'm pretty excited for. But honestly, the next thing I still want to fight over in London, and I believe there's a card over there in March. So I don't care who I fight over there. You just give me a name. People keep talking about Jack Marshman, I think his name is. He's brand new in the UFC, so the fight probably doesn't make sense. But I'll fight whoever. Yatko, forgive me if I'm saying his name wrong. He just fought Talis Leites. I believe he's over there. He would be another good fight. So whoever, I want to get over to Europe.
I actually commentated on a couple of Marshman's fights when he's fighting for Bama. Great fighter, yeah, but brand new to the UFC, but just not a big household name over here. But over there, it'll be a big, like over in Europe. If you want to get established in Europe, beating him or fighting him is going to be a great name for you to get your name established over in England. He's got a good name, but you're right. It's like I'm smiling Sam Alvey. I've been in the UFC for a long time. A lot of people know who I am. Why am I fighting a newcomer? Like doesn't make any sense. But if your passion is to fight over there, and that's the name they give you, then take the name. There's nothing wrong with taking the shot.
Yeah, and who knows if Yoel Romero gets injured or pops for something else from USADA, maybe I'll step up and fight Bisbing for him.
If Yoel Romero gets injured or something else like USADA or something happens, then I'll step up. Look at you just throwing a little jab in there, just getting a little here. Let me just go ahead and put this knife in your back real quick. I was actually telling a couple other fighters, since two things have changed, a lot of fighters have been pulling out of fights. Since they started doing USADA, a lot of fighters started pulling out of fights, because they knew the test was going to come, and they weren't going to be able to pass. And then they're having the morning weight cut, having the morning weigh-in. 10 in the morning is completely different than 4 in the afternoon. You've got to get up. Some guys have got to get up at 5:30 to go cut weight, to be on weight by the time 10 o'clock comes around or whatever time it is. Have you noticed that as well? That a lot of guys are like, oh, I've got a knee injury, so I'm gonna have to pull out now for a little while, and really it's just because I'm having problems making weight. Have you noticed that as well?
I have. The biggest jump in people pulling out that I've seen was when the UFC started insuring the fighters for injuries in practice. And that's a few years old, but I remember, like, as soon as that started happening, people pulled out all the time. They started getting injured or reporting it because they didn't have to pay for it anymore.
Yeah, and it wasn't as much of a burden on them, where it was like, not only am I missing my payday because I'm not going to fight, but I'm also injured, so I have to go to the doctor and lose more money. Now it's like, nope, the UFC is going to take care of that at least. So it makes a lot more sense. Honestly, there's a couple of fights I should have pulled out and went sell the doc and had a doc take care of stuff, and this is before health insurance. And there's a couple of fights where I thought about pulling out just because camp wasn't going right, and I had some personal issues that I probably would have used an injury to get out of the camp. So I can see how that can work both ways, for and against. But man, the fights have been so good. Like, you look at it as a whole, and you kind of go back and look at it. We keep saying, oh, 200 was the best fight ever. Oh, 202 should have been is what 200 should have been. Oh, look how good 203 was. Oh my God, 207 was amazing. It just keeps getting better and better. It's tough to pinpoint, because when people show up now, they are 95% ready to go. Everyone's going to have a little nicks and bings and their fingers torn up and a couple of bruised noses and maybe a black eye or something. But everyone's like at 95%, as opposed to before people were saying, hey, I'm 100%, I'm ready to go. Really, you're 60% because your knees, you got a limp, you got a weird ankle, and your shoulder doesn't work right. Like, it's just kind of one of those things. You've gotten more scientific about your training and your fighting. Have you noticed a lot of other fighters around you in your camp doing the exact same thing, getting a lot more scientific than even 3 years ago when you started with the UFC?
Yeah, a few of us have. I'm still working on Sean. Sean's a young kid with an old man's mentality. He likes doing what he does, but he's coming around to the smarter way of doing things. But Ashley Yoder, she just had her debut, and she's working with some of the best. Keith Berry, Dan Henderson, all those guys are working with outside sources for the physical and dietitian side of things.
Well, the thing about Dan, the guy you train with and your mentor, that there's no way he could have gone as long as he did without being more scientific. Same thing with Couture. He was very scientific a lot earlier than everybody else. As a result, he went in, to his late 40s. And that's just it shows that these guys that have had a hard life and coming from a wrestling background where you are getting beat up all the time, do that for 20 years, then go in and fight for 15 or 16 years on top of that. That's a huge athletic career, and it shows you being more scientific will make you go a lot further. I think you've got it dialed in right. I think making the sacrifice of having to drive sometimes an hour for a training partner is well worth it. Spending the extra money on the elevation tent is well worth it. Dietitian, strength and conditioning. It sounds like you've got everything put together. But now, how are you? But how are you mentally? Physically, you seem to be doing great. But mentally, how's everything going?
Mentally, I love fighting. I love what I do. I love every second of my life. And so I've never had a problem mentally. I might be the only person that says that too, but no, I love what I do, and I get, I get to be the main event on Fox Sports 1. Millions of people are going to get to watch me. I'm on cloud 9 right now.
Do you actually look forward to that rush of okay, I got to walk up 4 stairs now, and I got to walk inside this cage and about to close the door on me? Like, you enthrall in that rush, that heart attack, that your blood pressure pumping through your vein, and everyone else is kind of like, okay, this is for real now. I got to kind of settle into my corner. But you kind of like you live for that moment of walking right through that cage door just before you get ready to fight.
One of my favorite parts is when my music comes on. That's always good. That gets my heart pumping, even though it's Tay Soul Sister. But it does. I only listen to that song when I'm walking out now, and it gets that heart going. But after I get the Vaseline on, after I bump knuckles with my team, kiss Britt and all that, I get into that cage and the audience goes, wow, they go nuts, and that is the coolest feeling. That is, I come up and I wave to everyone, and as I wave to every corner of the octagon or to the people, that side of the octagon or of the arena starts just erupts, and that's one of the coolest feelings. Is I kind of sort of get to control just a little bit of thousands of people by waving at them. And that's really cool.
That's awesome. Well, that's Sam Alvey. Got Nate Marquardt coming up. UFC on Fox 23. It's a great card. Obviously, he's the main event as of right now. He's the main event on Fox Sports 1. It could shift. They could change things around, but I don't see him doing it, especially in Denver. I think he will remain in that spot before he jumps over to Big Fox. Sam, thanks so much for coming on with us, especially right after training, right after practice. Still at the gym, sitting in the parking lot. I appreciate it, man. Go home and have some fun. We'll talk to you later.
All right, we'll talk to you later. Thank you, sir.